Hello, this is Darice at moonlifeastro. Welcome if you're new and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the eclipse season. It officially began Sunday, August 24th, yesterday. I am recording this a few days ahead of time. So if something has happened on the world stage, I'm not referring to it because I don't know that it's happened. So just wanted to say that up front right now. Eclipses happen about every 6 months on average, and each eclipse series lasts for about 18 months to 24 months. So, what I like about eclipses is that it's actually a really nice way to loosely plan my life in 2 year cycles or so. And I'll get more into the details about that. But what I want to first explain is why this is an eclipse season. Um, we just had that new moon in Virgo. Hopefully, that was a good new moon for you. It may have had some surprises. That was kind of the energy around that new moon. We're moving to a space of going into a new phase. We're transitioning into a new phase. And this is really what this eclipse series is about, transitioning into the new. So, how eclipse seasons work is that 2 weeks before the first eclipse is the pre lead up to the first eclipse. So what happens during those first couple of weeks, you can like sort of get clues or glimpses or insights into probably what's going to be happening during the actual 2 week eclipses. So the first eclipse will be September 7th, and then the second one will be 2 weeks later, September 21st. So that September 7th eclipse, that's when the eclipse doorway officially opens. It's open for 2 weeks. And that's usually when people typically experience surprises, the unexpected, or major breakthroughs, both individually and collectively. And so we'll probably definitely see some major events on the world stage during this particular eclipse doorway. And then it'll um, end September 21st. And then we have those 2 weeks post the eclipses. So it's kind of an opportunity to clean up things, finalize whatever came to fruition. Often during eclipse season, things come to an end. Often, a lot of times, celebrities, politicians, people in major leadership positions will die during eclipse seasons because it ushers in a new phase of doing things or operating in the world. And then often there are reverberations of what happens during that eclipse doorway that can actually have an impact or an effect for 3 to 6 months. So even if something major doesn't happen to you individually, personally, during that actual eclipse doorway during those 2 weeks, it may happen in the post-eclipse season or afterwards, or even after it officially closes. I best believe October 5th is when this particular eclipse season officially ends. And I was actually going to share a story about how eclipses can work. Although, well, actually, before I do that, I do want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you are getting value from the messages, it does help me get the word out to people. Feel free to like the video and also share with others as well. Does this help me share this information with others? And what I'd like to share is uh, what could feel like an eclipse story. I don't actually know if this happened during an actual eclipse. I should probably look it up. But I went through a phase in my early 30s where I had 1 week where I lost my job, I got dumped, and I was evicted. So having a week like that where major endings happen unexpectedly, that is classic eclipse energy. So I would not be surprised if I were to look up that time because I wasn't studying astrology as closely then as I do now. But I would not be surprised if that was during a particular eclipse series for myself. And one day I should actually look up the actual dates on that. Um, but I just want to give you a sense of the magnitude, the impact that eclipse energy can have, because those are the types of things that happen. And it doesn't always have to be that dramatic. But I was thinking about it because what I realized is that even though at the time it was devastating, um, it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. All three of those things happening at the same time. Because what happened was is that it really made me address the fact that I was in denial, that I was in a relationship with someone who did not love me, and that I didn't really have a future with. It also forced me to recognize that at the time I was in a career that I wasn't really interested in. I was doing marketing and PR at the time. And I thought because I'm a writer and I'm creative, that I would be good at it. I thought I would like it. I like some aspects of business and entrepreneurship, but it wasn't my path. That was not my destiny. And a part of me knew that deep down inside, but I ignored that voice and I kept trying to make it work because I thought this is a career where I could be respected, I could be creative, it could be stable, and maybe it'll be fun. Like I was trying to convince myself that it was going to be all of these things for me. And it just wasn't. I didn't really enjoy most of it. I was bored horribly by it. And so this is what eclipses can do. It helps us face our own truths about what's working and why it's not working. And if it's not really ultimately what our soul's path is supposed to be, if it's not, if we're doing something that's not really allowing us to be who we are truly meant to become, who we are truly meant to evolve into as a person, like we need to just come to grips with it. And this is what eclipses do for us. They bring that to the surface. They make it obvious that, hey, if you are not what your soul is determined for you to do, it will get ripped out of your life. And even where I was living at the time, I didn't have a community around me. So being evicted from that space forced me to move in with roommates, where I ended up having a community and the people that they introduced me to and the places that I ended up going to ended up being my like friend circle for like the next 10 years. Like it was actually really beautiful in the long run. And so I want to say to you that if you do have something really devastating or catastrophic that happens during an eclipse season, hopefully it will put you in a space and a path where you are where you need to be, where you're going to find your people, folks who are going to support you, where it's going to take you or your business to the next level. Like that's ultimately what I think eclipses are about. And I feel like this particular eclipse series is really also about us doing this individually and also as a collective. We are going to be transitioning because we're at the part of this particular eclipse series, the Pisces-Virgo eclipse series, where we're going to be transitioning out of it. It officially began September 17th, 2024, so a year ago, when we had a Pisces partial solar eclipse, and it's going to be wrapping up February 2026. So this is a great time to look back and think about, well, what did you begin or what were you starting in September of 2024? When I look back on that, I was actually looking at doing a different career. I was still looking at, I was getting more involved in astrology. And I knew I wanted astrology to be part of my career path. But a year ago, I wasn't sure how seriously I wanted that to be or what I wanted that to look like. And I felt like maybe I need something else to do, another field to go into. I was seriously considering instructional design and I was taking classes around that. And then in October, I got introduced to another business mentor who taught me about YouTube and how to build a membership. And I realized my heart was more interested in that. Like I wasn't really as interested in the instructional design as I thought it would be. So I did a complete pivot during that eclipse season. And also, that was when I was first invited on to speak on a YouTube channel for one of my favorite astrologers, Dabney Wallace. I'm really grateful for her for that. And that really solidified for me that the universe was saying astrology is the next path. Commit to that, go all in. And I haven't regretted it since I made that decision. So this is just something to think about. You know, what were you looking at or what were you committed to in September 2024 that you're no longer committed to now? Or it feels like the writing is on the wall. Like it feels like maybe this is time to wrap up this particular project or this particular career, or maybe I no longer want to be in this industry. And even if you're not in a space where you can transition out of that, if you can't leave something that you do want to finalize, you have this energy to work with between now and February 2026 to make a plan, to start taking steps towards wrapping it up, closing it out. Because we're going to have a new eclipse series that begins February 2026. It's going to be the Aquarius Leo series for about 18 months. And let's think about the themes of the Pisces-Virgo eclipse series, first of all. This is about spirituality versus practicality. I really like to think of Pisces, which is all about our imagination, our spiritual expansion. Sometimes the shadow side of Pisces can be delusion or disillusionment. But Pisces in its highest expression, I feel like it's asking us to give ourselves permission to say, what is possible? If there were no limits, what would I really do? How would I really live my life? And then Virgo is like, okay, if this is the dream, then what are the steps that need to happen? Virgo's about the details. How do you make that dream, that vision, a reality? Let's break it down. Let's create a plan. Let's take steps every day. Let's meet the people. Let's find the resources. Let's put it into action. So that's the Pisces Virgo dance. Aquarius Leo. Aquarius is about the people, the collective, the larger vision. And Leo is like, how do I express myself? How do I show up fully? How can I be my most authentic self? So it's the I versus the we. But with all of this happening against the backdrop of Pluto in Aquarius, and then in particular with some of the transits that are going to be coming up in 2026 and 2027, I feel like in particular, this Pisces Virgo eclipse series is saying, what do we need to do to create a foundation so that we are really clear about how do I see myself? Who do I really truly want to be? How do I really want to operate in the world? And then what do I want my world to actually look like? How do I want it to operate for everyone in the collective? Like, if we could begin to have these questions now as this Pisces Virgo series begins to transition out, maybe it'll be easier as we go through some of the more challenging transits in 2026, where the Aquarius Leo eclipse series is going to make it even more intense. Unfortunately, some of the polarizations that we're seeing in the collective, some of the breakdowns in governments and structures, communities, um, that's probably only going to intensify next year. So this Pisces Virgo eclipse series is an opportunity to prepare ourselves for that and to begin to reflect on, how do I want to show up in that? What is my part of the solution to these challenges? Because I do believe that we're here because we want to be a part of the solution. I personally believe that we incarnated at this time during these challenges because we have a part of the solution, that our soul said, hey, I want to be here to help humanity go to the next level, to expand our consciousness at a new level, to change how we operate on planet Earth. So this eclipse season, this is a cleaning and preparation zone for 2026. And then if you want to look at it more practically in terms of being a solopreneur, a creative visionary, you can begin looking at how you want to simplify and clarify your business processes. And how are all of those things a reflection of you, your soul, your essence? I think these are the questions to really sit with, especially during eclipse season. Um, this could be a great time to be journaling any endings that are actually happening. I also remember last year, someone at the company that I work with, I still have a day job, someone who I really liked was let go from the company unexpectedly. That sort of thing happens during eclipse season as well. So a whole project that I thought I was going to be working on totally got scrapped and I had to pivot completely in that particular job, doing another project. But it also turned out to be a good thing as well because I gained a whole set of skills that I wouldn't have gained otherwise. Um, in terms of your own business, this eclipse season, it may be a great opportunity for you to maybe release old offers or projects that no longer work, that no longer serve your business, or that you no longer feel aligned with. You can also just simply refine your schedule and commit to practices that sustain you, especially with Virgo. Virgo is all about our daily activities, how we show up, our routines. So you can always use this eclipse season for reflection. Most people don't do major launches during eclipse season. It's up to you if only you know what's best for you and your business. Most people don't do major new launches. You might do a relaunch of something or something that's been revised. That could be ideal during eclipses. But if you've been doing a preparation for something major for months and September is the time for it to release, then that's fine. I think Beyonce's last album, Cowboy Carter, that might have actually been released during eclipse season. I can't remember, but I think it might have been. I'll have to look it up. So it can be a time to release a major project, if you've been working on it for a long time and you've got the details hammered down, you know, like I said, only you know what's best for you and your business. Often though, after the eclipse season ends, like after that September 21st eclipse, whatever you have released, there'll probably be some clarity that emerges around you for that as well, if you do end up releasing a major project. Particular reflection prompts for this time, and I'll put those down in the comments below. What am I ready to dissolve to make space for clarity? Or what is one system or ritual that would simplify my life and my business right now? I'm I'm trying to find the words here for what I want to say next. Is something I think I know there's a lot of heaviness in the air. And 2025 has been really intense for so many people in so many ways. And like I said, I'm recording this ahead of time before the new moon. I don't know if anything major has happened. If you're sitting with a lot of heavy energy, um, I feel like this year there's been a lot of grief for a lot of people. And I do think it's important to acknowledge that, um, to hold space for that. And eclipse season can often bring up more to be grieved individually and collectively. Um, I know there's a major hurricane happening around this time, so hopefully there won't be any major loss as a result of that. But if that is, that can often happen during eclipse seasons as well. And I want to remind people that even though things are challenging, even though it's hard, even though there's a lot to move through emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I personally don't believe that that's without a purpose. I don't feel like the universe is ever testing us. I do believe that the universe is training us. I can't remember if I said this in another video, if it was just in my newsletter or my Substack. But I feel like it's important to keep repeating this message to people that if you do feel like you're being tested by the universe, how would it be to imagine that it's not a test, it's about being trained to become stronger, more flexible, and more adaptable, so that you can grow to the next level, or so that you can assist someone else who may go through something similar 6 months from now or 6 years from now. Because many of the things that I've been through, I feel have prepared me for where I am now, as a coach, as a spiritual healer, as an energy worker, and as an astrologer. That all of those challenges that I've been through in the past have now made it easier for me to show up for others and to be of service in a way than which I never would have expected or planned. And as I've been saying throughout this whole year, so much of what we're going through, it really is about expanding human consciousness, shedding old ways of being. This is the year of the snake, and it's a 9 year. It's an ending of cycles in so many ways. So we are birthing a new version of ourselves individually and collectively. And it's not always easy. And so give yourself permission to grieve what needs to be grieved. And if there is anything that comes up during this eclipse season that needs to be grieved, create the space for that. Give yourself permission to create that space, because it's only through moving through that grief that we heal. Uh, in many ways, it's easier to go to anger because anger initially gives us a sense of feeling heard or powerful. But emotionally, sometimes I feel like anger and rage is kind of the emotional equivalent of a sugar high. It's a quick fix. Whereas often what's underneath anger, at least been in my experience, is really profound grief that has not been addressed, that has not been released, that has not been felt. And processing grief is the emotional equivalent of eating vegetables. It's not as pleasant. It takes more discipline. But in the end, once you move through it, there's so much more relief, and it's more sustainable. And I'm not saying that if you have anger that you don't express it. It's just about being willing to be conscious about how you express your anger, how you express your rage, and not just giving in to emotional tantrums. That's really the thing I want to say. If we have those, just to be aware that that can happen. And all of these things can happen during eclipse seasons. And my intuition is that this Pisces-Virgo eclipse season will probably be pretty intense for many of us, individually and collectively. And so be kind to yourself and do what you can to be kind to others. Give yourself grace, give others grace, and continue to take care of yourself. Continue to nurture yourself, self-nurture yourself, with the healthy eating and drinking the water, staying hydrated, and doing the meditation. But I also feel like it's really important to continue to do the shadow work I've been encouraging people to do all this year. Because the more we do that shadow work, the more we heal and the stronger we become. Because life and the universe is really demanding that we grow up in a whole new way, in a whole and into a whole new level, so that we can really fully show up for ourselves and our businesses and our communities. So that we can be of service in the ultimate way. And this Pisces Virgo season, I think, is really going to demand that of us, that we clarify our higher vision for ourselves. And then we use that Virgo practicality to bring it into manifestation, bring it into fruition. I hope that was helpful for you. If you made it this far and you want to comment down below, feel free to comment manifestation or fruition. I'm wishing you so much love and peace and joy and grace. And I will hopefully see you again soon. I will come out with the astrology of the week on Wednesday as well. And till we meet again, easefully yours, Darius.